Please, Cindy,
Okay.
we are rolling.
Deborah, Rabbi Chaim, very happy to have you here. Two very special people in the Jewish community who really understand anti-Semitism it's here and abroad, and I really look forward to hearing your responses. So we have an increasingly difficult situation on college campuses that we all know exists. And we even saw something very unfortunate happen a week or so ago when in Princeton, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs was not even allowed to speak at Hillel, and Chabad had to take over and host him. So I want to understand, please, how you see this increasing fervor all over the country, and all these new groups that are popping up that are giving the community a very difficult time with the whole BDS movement on campus. Where do you see this is going, and what can we do about it? So, Chaim, why don't you start?
All right. So, I'd like to move the agenda a bit. Acknowledge that there are difficulties and there is resentment towards Jews on campus that needs to be addressed. And the reasons are varied, but I want to put the issue in context. And I want to say that I think that the Jewish community needs to refocus its attention away from its centralized concern regarding what is being done to us and be more concerned about what Jews have done to themselves. Because from my perspective, the issue is not the anti-Semites. The issue is the fact that young Jews don't feel compelled to identify as Jews, and that we have a responsibility to promote a more, as I said, a more compelling way of identifying with Judaism and with the future of Jewish life. So I don't want to deny the problem of BDS. I know in an era of scarce resources, I want to ask us a question about our priorities. Are we not spending too much time devoted and challenging ourselves on questions of anti-Semitism, and not enough time devoted to the issue of Jewish education? And because someday we're going to defeat the anti-Semites, and my worry is that the Jews won't know why they fought, because they don't have enough of an understanding of their own identity. So I'm looking for a little bit of a move away. I also have some modes of addressing the issue of BDS on campus. I'll mention very briefly, because we don't have a lot of time, but about 4 years ago, I created a program at UCLA, which is now expanded to 20 campuses, and it's a fact-finding mission to Israel, which for non-Jewish student leaders, and it's been transformative in terms of the campus. So I want to dance at both weddings. In other words, on the one hand, I want to address the issue of anti-Semitism, but I don't want us to be hysterical about anti-Semitism. I want us to be upset about and worry about the Jewish future, and how we're going to create a more intense Jewishness that will be attractive to this generation of Jews.
I'm not going to differ dramatically from Chaim. I think, first of all, there's clearly a problem on campus, and not just on campus, with, we use it as a short-term BDS. With Israel, it's more than BDS. It's what I call the toxification of Israel, making Israel toxic, so that anything that has to do with Israel is you stay away from. And that is quite disturbing. Where, end the occupation, and students fight to end the occupation, and they don't even know where the occupation is. I mean, there's so much ignorance, but yet Israel becomes toxic. And it's a real problem. And I think it's a problem. Chaim mentioned these student trips for non-Jewish leaders to Israel. I think those things are very important. I also think, and here I'm going to sort of buttress some of the things that Chaim said, that it's very important for Jewish leadership to think in a nuanced fashion. First of all, we should not be going around saying the campus is a hotbed of anti-Semitism and every Jewish student who's going to come is going to encounter anti-Semitism. Because I can tell you what will happen. The vast majority of the students, with the exception of students with a very strong Jewish background and a strongly educated background and base of Jewish knowledge, are going to say, I have 4 years to spend on campus. If I go abroad, it's 3.5 years. I don't want to spend those 3.5 years fighting. I'm going to go underground as a Jew. Why should I go to Hillel? Why should I go to Chabad? If I need, a Seder, I'll go home for the Seder. I'll go to Hillel for the Seder, for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. The rest of the time, I'm not getting involved. I don't want to be fighting. So I think we have to be very careful. It's sort of become a mantra in the community that the campus is a hotbed of anti-Semitism. It also shortchanges the great advances that Hillel has made, the accomplishments of Chabad, and even more so the Jewish studies programs. No good university does not have a Jewish studies program. It doesn't consider itself a good university. It's sort of become part of the staple, the bread and butter of the campus. So yes, there is a very serious problem with anti-Israel sentiment. It is coming most aggressively from the left, and not just the left in general, but the far left, so that students who are progressive, they support anti-racist measures, they support ecological measures, are being told, you choose that or you choose Israel, you can't do both. And it's a very difficult situation, and it's something that really has to be addressed. And then we're going to have it from the right as well, and I mean, we've seen that, but right now it's primarily from the left, at least as far as the campus is. But I don't think it does the students a service to overstate the issue. The issue is important, and I'm writing about it, I'm teaching about it, I'm fighting, I'm working with students on it, but I think at the same time, and here I echo Chaim, have the song go, accentuate the positive as well as deal with the negative.
Okay, thank you. So we all saw the horrible incident in Charlottesville where there were terrible, slanderous things said about Jews. You see the atmosphere changing in America, and it's really something that we're quite concerned about. You also see a rise of a lot of new groups that are around the country, and some have the word Jew in them, and they are really anti-Zionist and anti-Israel, anti-Jews. You have speakers like Linda Sansor, who is now heading an anti-Semitism conference.
Or panel.
Which blew my mind.
Right.
Can you discuss what you see happening in this whole political atmosphere in our whole environment as it's changing a little bit?
Let me start with that,
No,
because as Chaim knows, I've just finished a book which was accepted today by the publisher. So
Mazel tov.
Thank you. Called Confronting Anti-Semitism Here and Now. So I think we're in a very difficult situation, not only nationally, but internationally. And I think it's really important for Jews to understand that there is serious anti-Semitism from both the left, and I spoke about the left a moment ago, and from the right. And that it's coming from both ends. What we saw in Charlottesville with the marchers screaming, Jews will not replace us, and blood and soil. Blood and soil is a Nazi slogan. Mm-hmm. The Nazis were saying, if you are not of Aryan blood, which is of course a made-up term, but that's how they operated, and of the German soil, you are cosmopolitan, you're not one of us. And that, of course, they were talking about Jews. And that is coming from the right. We see it more and more from the right. We saw it to some degree in a demonstration last week in downtown Warsaw, 60,000 people. Very anti-Islam, but also tremendous anti-Semitism. So we're seeing it from both places. I think what is necessary is for those on the political right not just to see anti-Semitism on the left, and those on the left not just to see anti-Semitism on the right, but each group to root it out and address it within their own political circle. In other words, I have friends who only woke up to issues of anti-Semitism when they began to see it on the right in the past 2 years in the United States. I want to say, where have you been? You're a member of left groups, you didn't see it in your own midst, and vice versa. So I think we each have to address it within our own midst. We have to argue and we have to point out, we have to educate how anti-Semitism, first of all, is irrational. It is prejudicial. It is part of a stream of other forms of prejudice, and to fight and to educate about it, but to recognize that it's coming from both sides. And some of this is the last point I'll make, and this breaks my heart. Some of those who are espousing anti-Semitism, sometimes a little, in subterfuge, a little under the cover, are at the same time expounding their love of Israel. And I love Israel. I've lived there. I don't have to belabor that point. We can't be confused by who they are in truth.
Seduced.
Seduced, that's the right word. Thank you.
So, yeah. I'm going to pursue my contrarian mode here.
Why
And-
not? That's why you're an
No, you
interviewer.
told me not to be contrarian.
I didn't say that.
Again,
Just answer.
without denying the threat. I've worked in the Jewish community for over 40 years, and the feeling that I have, we'll talk more tomorrow about this, is that it's hard for Jews to live without anti-Semitism, and it doesn't mean that it's not there. It's just that what bothers me the most is that I don't want Sartre to be right, that the Jew needs the anti-Semite in order to be Jewish. That can't be the reason that we sustain this tradition and this way of being. And the fact is that at the same time that there's this growth in anti-Semitism, I don't know whether it's the third or fourth year in a row, the Pew study has indicated that the Jewish religion is the most respected religion in America. How do you deal with that? The news cannot be better in terms of what the Jews have achieved. And I have written about this. I consider this a golden age on the American campus in terms of Jewish achievement, Jewish presence. It's not going to be like this for long because there are certain transitions occurring on the campus in terms of population and Jewish focus on intellectual life. So in general, I'd like to see less talk about anti-Semitism and more talk about what Judaism is about, what being Jewish is about, what Israel means. And I watch all these students fighting for Israel. They come and they learn that Israel is advocacy, as Deborah said. Deborah said they learn to fight. They didn't come to campus to learn to fight. If they came to campus, it was to expand their minds. We need to expand their understanding of Zionism in Israel. There's no student who has anything intelligent to say about Zionism today. So we're the ones who are going to lose out, and we're not going to lose out because of what they have done to us.
Well, let me, I know we're out of time, but to put what Chaim and I both are saying is, the oi is there, but we also need the joy. And no Jew has ever said, I want to be more Jewish because everyone hates us. It's despite the efforts of the rest of the world, because of the wonderful things about Jewish tradition.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Shabbat shalom.
Thank you very much. Excellent.